hot takes, cold showers. So essentially, your hot take is your own opinion. It's like you really back yourself with, but perhaps the rest of us might disagree with it entirely. So one hot take will perhaps need a cold shower. So, Jack, as this is your debut, would you like to go first?
Okay, so I've been thinking about this quite a lot the past few days. I didn't know how hot they go. Should I go really over the top? Very hot. Mm-hmm. Then I feel like this is probably a hot take, but I've now got to the point where I've started questioning the take over time. So I'm just going to get it out there. It is that I think, and speaking of Chelsea and Arsenal, I think Chelsea are going to challenge Liverpool much more than Arsenal will next season for the Premier League title. And I don't know how hot that is, so I'll open the floor to everyone else. Is that enough of a hot take for everyone?
Well, on the one hand, they are the Club World Cup champions and they beat a phenomenal PSG side that conquered Europe. But on the other hand, they're a mad Chelsea team and have been mad for years. Graeme, your view on this opinion?
I like it. I think that Chelsea does it very good. I think we need to judge them at the end of the window, though. I think it reminds me of Arsene Wenger about this. They still need a goalkeeper. Just go and sign a good goalkeeper, Chelsea. We've been waiting for how many windows now for them to do it, and I think they will. I think we will see Mike Maignan probably come in from AC Milan. But yeah, I think Chelsea are going to be... I agree with that. I think they're going to be real contenders next season. I do. I think, and they're still not finished in the striking department. They might bring another one in. Yeah, I agree. I think Chelsea are going to be really are going to be ones to watch next season.
No mention of who the other blue side they might be challenging, Kieran. There was talk about them challenging Arsenal and Liverpool, but no Brighton or City.
I agree with what's been said. I think Chelsea are looking far more balanced. Some of the players who they signed on big fees over the course of the last 2 to 3 years, who initially look as if they've overpaid, are now looking good or looking better value for money. In Pedro, as much as it sickens me to say, they've got somebody that is a natural goal scorer and is unpredictable as well, with both his feet and his elbows. And that they've got Delap. They've got a striking lineup now that I think will be good, not brilliant necessarily, but good enough to be top 2 perhaps. Whether they could win the Premier League is another matter. And I loathe Chelsea more than I loathe Crystal Palace. So it's very personal, but I think they've done a lot of smart business.
Okay, but it's not a wild take then, Jack. Graeme, take us away.
Well, I was going to be really negative and go along the lines of Graham Potter will be at work by Christmas, but I don't think that's a particularly hot take. I think as the season starts, we'll see everyone else agree with that anyway. I think that Marcus Rashford will be Barcelona's starting centre forward by the end of the season. I think he will usurp Robert Lewandowski. I think he'll score over 30 goals for Barcelona, and I think we'll be having a conversation in May next year as to whether Marcus Rashford should be England's starting number 9 ahead of Harry Kane at the World Cup.
That's a big one. Jack?
I agreed with the first part of it. I think, Graeme, you're spot on there. I think just age, profile, how many gaps in goal scoring that Lewandowski had last season. He did go quite a long period at a point last season and the season before where he wasn't scoring that many goals. So I can see that happening. And like I said earlier, a motivated Rashford is a great player and he knows what the net does. And I think their style of play and how they go about things and his pace in behind, and especially doing that in La Liga, which is a completely different league than the Premier League, obviously, and a league that perhaps suits Marcus Rashford a lot more than the Premier League does right now. I can see that one happening. I'm not too sure about the second one, I have to be honest, Graeme. Just because I think Harry Kane's Harry Kane. He's still bloody brilliant. He's kind of out of sight, out of mind in a lot of ways for a lot of English football fans because he's in the Bundesliga, obviously, but he's still banging them in. He's scoring 30, 40 goals a season, every season, without really breaking a sweat, and he's the England captain. That'll obviously mean that he starts as well. And then also the actual media coverage of it, if they were to drop him heading into the World Cup, it would be quite a big stir, so it would probably be, and it's been an issue for England in the past. I think in 2006, 2002, pretty much every World Cup and Euro cycle throughout the 21st century, that distractions have kind of cost England in many ways over the time. So I think the less distractions from anywhere, be it the press, be it the WAGs, be it whatever, the better for England. And I think dropping Harry Kane would be a distraction too much, I would imagine.
Kieran, I bring this to you. 2 points is, obviously, if this was to happen, we're going to see a huge change in the form that we've seen over the last 2 years, which is not a small amount of time. And then secondly to that, does Marcus Rashford even want to play as a number 9? His best seasons have all come playing on the left.
I think you raise an appropriate point there. He is far better cutting in. He's still got an awful lot of pace, having seen it in action. I think he could be a very effective goal scorer in the same way that Mo Salah scores loads of goals for Liverpool without being a centre forward. I think he will get more chances in La Liga than he would have done in the Premier League, because the middle to lower classes of the Premier League are that much more equipped with talented players than the bottom third of La Liga, and on the back of that, he can certainly flourish. My personal view is that Harry Kane is one of the most underrated England players of all time. He's never been given the credit for his ability to do what he's paid to do, which is to score goals. He's England's record goal scorer, and yet it barely gets a sniff. I think there's been far too much sneeriness, because he's actually a thoroughly nice guy, and we don't want that. We want characters in football. We want bad boys, and Harry doesn't fit in with that. So if he maintains the form this season for Bayern that he's shown in the first 2 seasons, I can't see under which circumstances he would be dropped by England, unless Thomas Tuchel has decided to go for a different style of play.
Okay, so Graeme, I think as it stands, it's a safe bet that out of you and Jack, you're the one heading for a cold shower. However, we do not know what weird and wild take that Kieran Maguire is about to throw our way.
Well, as I often say, I know nothing about football, but I can just about add up. So if we're doing the big take for the season, we've got to mention the Manchester City 115 charges, which is actually 130 charges. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I expect to get brickbats left, right and centre. I think Manchester City will be found guilty of non-cooperation with the Premier League as far as the investigations are concerned, and on the back of that, they will be fined a substantial amount of money. I think they might be found guilty of 1 or 2 of the accusations with regards to payments off book, but that's actually, I'm not convinced that the counterparties turned up to give evidence. And my gut reaction is I think they'll probably just have enough evidence to successfully defend what I consider to be the most serious charges, which is effectively one of corporate fraud, and disguising money from the owners as money from sponsors. And on the back of that, the punishment for them will be relatively muted and will cause a wailing and a gnashing of teeth amongst those fans of other clubs who feel that they've been denied trophies due to Manchester City's actions over the course of the last decade. I'm not going out on a limb here. We will see a record set of legal costs being incurred, and I would be fascinated, having seen Nottingham Forest successfully defend themselves last week in terms of what the Premier League tried to charge them for some of their cases. We're going to see an awful lot of lawyers in boats and Range Rovers.
Okay, I had so many questions I'd like to ask you, but I won't. Instead, we're going with your hot take is that they'll be found guilty, but essentially just get a telling off.
My gut reaction is they'll be fined for the misdemeanours that they've incurred. They could get a nominal points deduction in respect of payments off book, but the big one, which for me is the taking money effectively from Sheikh Mansour and pretending that it's money from sponsors. I just feel that they've got enough on their side. It's such a high burden of proof. to get over. And the longer it takes to make a decision, the more I think that they've got a chance of successfully defending their case.
Okay, Graeme, what's your view?
I don't think it's a hot take because I completely agree with Kieran. I don't think there's, from what I'm hearing from Man City and in football, there's not many people who think anything's going to happen to City. It's definitely not. I don't think they're going to get a points deduction. I think they might get a record fine of some sort, but yeah, I completely agree. I think City are very, very confident that they're not going to see a points deduction in any way, shape or form. And yeah, again, as Kieran says, I think the waves of the fallout we get from this will be a lot bigger than the punishment itself.
I would agree with that. I think Graham's going for the cold shower here. Yeah, with this one, I completely agree, to be honest. I do think they're... And I look at it in a wee bit of a different way, perhaps, because I big into Serie A, big into Italian football. I remember how much of an impact it's still having, that sending down Juventus and putting all those points deductions, financial repercussions and things on so many other teams in Italy. The league hasn't really ever recovered from it. And the Premier League itself is such a massive asset. They put it into that level of disrepute in many ways. They kind of change public perception of it, that someone can effectively cheat and be then relegated for cheating. It just kind of changes how the public views a league. I know it from experience, having been watching Serie A for a long time, that from like pre-Calciopoli to post-Calciopoli, the first thing that was talked about pre-Calciopoli was Francesco Totti, Del Piero, Pavel Nedved, Shevchenko, all these legendary footballers. The thing talked about after it is, how do you watch that crap? They're all cheating. So with that in mind, I think that level of change in perception of the league, and I think it's just, there's too much to lose, not just for Man City, but for the whole Premier League, to relegate Man City. Even though I think a lot of ways, a lot of journalists and stuff would probably maybe perhaps like to see it, just because we love a wee bit of mayhem every once in a while in the news cycle.
I think we could talk a lot more about this specific case against Manchester City, but that is not the purpose of the hot takes cold showers. So we'll leave it for another day. Am I right in thinking that Graeme is taking our very first cold shower?
I will just kind of put in a little asterisk to what I said. I said in May next year we'll be talking about it, and part of that will be because all of the lunatic decisions that Thomas Tuchel has made in the previous 9 months will lead us to that diagnosis that he's going to change things. And as Kieran said, who knows what Thomas Tuchel is going to do? And that I do put that little asterisk as to where, yeah, I'm not saying Harry Kane should be dropped, but will we be discussing it in May that Thomas Tuchel could do it? I think we will be.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but you're still in that cold shower. Graeme, Jack, Kieran, thank you so much. Make sure you are subscribed to Beyond the Back Four. We'll be back next week going deeper and beyond the headlines.